They aren't particularly good reasons. Again, this seems like a step backwards. Interesting that that is listed as a benefit. Hello, welcome to another Merge Ready, where today we're going to look at an IaC tool that has been deprecated and good alternatives to move to if you are locked into this provider. AWS Proton will be deprecated October 2026. That is less than 1 year's time. All AWS Proton services will be shut down. Now, you'll be forgiven for asking, what is AWS Proton? They have hundreds of services in AWS, and this is one of them. Proton is an infrastructure as code provisioning service that is native to AWS, primarily used to deploy to container services using version service templates. You can see a little bit here if we look at the screen. Automated infrastructure as code provisioning and deployment of serverless and container-based applications. Most people that will be using Proton will be just using it because it's part of the AWS ecosystem and not necessarily because it's the best for the job. Well, AWS seem to have realized that as well, and they have decided to deprecate it. And they have announced this in this deprecation and migration guide. In this guide, they've explained that it will be discontinued on October 7th in 2026. New customers will not be able to sign up after October 7th. So you will not be able to use AWS Proton anymore unless you are already signed up. So something I was going to do in this video was give you a quick demonstration of what Proton is. However, you'll notice if you go over to the console and go to Proton, page not found. Obviously, I was not using Proton before it was deprecated. Anyone that is looking to use Proton now as an alternative to a different system won't be able to. And let's just take a look here at what AWS are recommending as alternatives. So we can see here that they will provide security patches and critical bug fixes, maintain service availability, continue to offer support through AWS support channels. And this is just until October next year for existing customers only. So here we've got the alternative solutions as recommended by AWS. Quite an interesting one here. So CloudFormation Git Sync. So this is best for teams that are using CloudFormation already and who want a GitOps workflow. Now, this is certainly the best AWS service alternative, but we will talk about better alternatives that are out there outside of the AWS ecosystem. So yeah, the key benefits here are that it's similar to AWS Proton, leverages existing CloudFormation knowledge, and a clear separation between platform and developer teams. Yeah, they aren't particularly good reasons to be using or moving over to this service, especially as you've got a year to make that choice if you are already using Proton. Now, if Proton had suddenly shut down and you were rushing and scrambling to decide on what infrastructure provisioning tool to use, sure, maybe this would be a good idea for now. But that's not the case. Let's look at what we've got here. So Harmonix on AWS. Let's have a look. So Harmonix is kind of an IDS, a developer platform, previously known as OPA on AWS. It's open source. You can see the information here. It's a great way to try and bring all of your application management into one place. I'm not sure how this is a recommendation for a drop-in replacement for Proton. Seems like it's something that might complement a service that you use for infrastructure as code, but this in itself is not an infrastructure as code provisioning platform. What other alternatives have we got here? AWS CodePipeline and AWS CodeBuild. Now, AWS CodePipeline and AWS CodeBuild are, again, part of the AWS ecosystem. It is effectively their CI and their CD tools. You can think of them as GitHub Actions or GitLab CI, Circle CI, those kind of things. That's what they do. Again, this seems like a step backwards. It's moving infrastructure provisioning into a CI/CD platform, which isn't the optimal way to deploy infrastructure. It's like shoehorning infrastructure as code into a GitLab CI/CD pipeline, which yes, is possible, and yes, a lot of people do, but there are dedicated infrastructure as code provisioning platforms out there that handle things like state management and drift detection much better. So let's see here, key benefits: maximum flexibility, deep integration with AWS services. Interesting that that is listed as a benefit. Obviously, this is an AWS article. It's great that, you know, you can integrate easily with various things within AWS. But like a lot of things in AWS, I find that with CodeBuild and with CodePipeline, it's not particularly intuitive from anyone coming from any other kind of CI/CD platform background, and it's just not very good. That might be a point of contention amongst a lot of engineers around, but personally, if I was given the choice to choose a CI/CD platform for my engineers, even if we were all in everywhere else on AWS, I would not choose AWS CodePipeline and AWS CodeBuild. That being said, I've used it before. It is suitable for some teams. Active maintenance and new features and maximum flexibility. Yeah, again, maximum flexibility isn't always what you want. Maximum flexibility means you're going to write this from scratch and you can do it how you like. It requires more implementation work and less out-of-the-box developer self-service. Yes, that's true. I would list the deep integration with AWS services as a limitation as well. A lot of people will be looking at multi-cloud deployments, on-prem deployments as well. Whilst you can do that via these systems, isn't a great fit. Next up, we have GitHub Actions. Now, this is best for smaller teams using GitHub who want simplicity. Yes, that's true. GitHub Actions will be more simple to use than CodePipeline and CodeBuild. There are a lot more engineers out there with GitHub Actions experience than there are CodePipeline and CodeBuild. GitHub Actions is far easier to use, and I would say that perhaps simplicity is not the right word. I think that actually GitHub Actions is quite flexible. You can do within reason what you like with GitHub Actions. I think GitHub Actions is a better option than either of these two options listed above here. I don't see how CloudFormation Git sync is a good answer. We've got CodePipeline, which again, that's just shoehorning it into a CI/CD tool. GitHub Actions is better than CodePipeline and CodeBuild. Therefore, GitHub Actions is probably the best option on this list. Now, it isn't the best option all round. So we'll take a look at some alternatives. One thing worth mentioning is yesterday, so just 12 hours ago, this page listed one other alternative solution that has been removed since, probably because someone told them no, push AWS services, not partner services. So what we had was, we had a section in here, the Spacelift and the best for said teams needing advanced governance and compliance capabilities. Now that is great. That makes sense. Spacelift is a dedicated infrastructure as code, orchestration, and deployment platform. It has fantastic controls with governance, policies, that kind of thing. Why it was removed, I'm not sure. Likely because it's not an AWS service and they wanted to maybe change their angle to try and get people involved in using other services within AWS instead of a third party, which is strange, but there we go. Now on Spacelift, we can have a look here. Spacelift is a separate third party. It is not AWS. It is very intuitive. You have your runners, you have stacks, which are your workspaces where your environments pick up the code that they need and have it deployed. I've got my trial account open here. You can see that I've done some deployments here in the past. So this is a stack. This stack has a SCM connected to it in GitLab, I think, for this one. And you can see here we've deployed some Terraform here, or some OpenTofu in a kind of demo account. It's also got things like drift detection that you would expect for these kinds of tools. So this is obviously something you'd have to build out from scratch with CodePipeline, CodeBuild, GitHub Actions. They are not made for this. They are not made for drift detection. Obviously, Spacelift has drift detection built in here. You can poll your infrastructure that has been deployed via IaC and make sure that that hasn't changed since deployment. Where Spacelift really shines, as the article had said yesterday, is with governance and compliance, with OPA policies. So you've got the OPA-based controls within Spacelift. You can really do whatever you like at every different stage of the IaC lifecycle. So when the code is pushed to the SCM, you can do some checks there. When a plan is running, you can do some checks there. When an apply is running, and you can insert your own custom scripts within that workflow, either before or after applies, plans, etc., depending on what the outputs of the previous step was. So it's all very flexible, very good, but also designed for infrastructure as code deployments. Some other options here we've got, as you may be aware, HCP Terraform or Terraform Cloud. Obviously, this is HashiCorp's offering to orchestrate and manage Terraform. It is what HashiCorp are pushing all enterprises towards instead of running in CI/CD. Most of you will be familiar with it. You can set up your workspaces here, and your workspaces aligned with an SCM, and your SCM, when modified, will trigger runs. We also have some drift detection and security policies via Sentinel, which is all great for enterprise. Next up, we've got Env0, which is a good alternative to using Proton. I haven't looked a lot into Env0 yet. It is on my list to do, but that is something else you should be aware of. Finally, I did read an article this week that was suggesting a new infrastructure as code tool, Formae or Formae. A new infrastructure as code tool, Formae, takes aim at Terraform. This is an article by Matt Saunders on InfoQ. I recommend you go and check it out, have a read of the article, and make a decision yourself, because this tool was released only 2 weeks ago, and it seems to be getting a lot of attention. And Formae is a tool that was released by Platform Engineering Labs. Their go live was, I believe, 2 weeks ago. So they are fresh. They are fresh on the market with this new infrastructure as code platform. It seems to be agent based. It looks like it's a really cool product. Okay, so AWS Proton is going, and it's gone if you wanted to start using it. Now, just to recap the alternatives there, we've got Spacelift, a policy-driven multi-IaC orchestration and governance with Git-centric workflows and OPA-based controls. This is possibly my favorite for large enterprise organizations. Terraform Cloud HCP, it's first-party Terraform remote, runs with managed state, private registry, Sentinel policies, etc. This is probably what a lot of enterprises are currently using. I know there's a lot of window shopping going on at the moment with some of the pricing changes. M0, governance first IaC automation with a strong cost FinOps guardrails, plus drift detection and automated remediation. Again, I haven't looked into this tool wholly yet. I'll have a little bit of a dive in and see what it's like in a future video. And we've got Terramate. So Terramate is large-scale Terraform OpenTofu orchestration with code generation and change detection across stacks. And let's not forget Formae, an agent-based code-only IaC that auto-discovers and codifies resources and removes explicit state management. From what I can gather from my research so far, I will be doing a new video on Formae in the coming weeks.
If you are here just for a concise list of alternatives, here we can see a list of tools, the category they're in, their best use cases, and some notes on what they are and what they suit. Hopefully this is useful for you to have a look at the top level tools that are available and then do research into each of these to see which best suits your needs.
Okay, that's it for this quick video. I hope you have gleaned the information you wanted around IaC tools and what to do if you are using AWS Proton. If you found this video useful, please do all those YouTube things that make this video get pushed to more people. We are a small channel and I am trying to grow it. I'd be very much appreciative if you were to share it as well. Once again, thank you for your time and stay merge ready.